Hi there, welcome. We're here today with our friend Susan Piver, and she's here to talk about her new awesome book called The Four Noble Truths of Love. Four Noble Truths of Love. And so I have a question to start off. I mean, I know the term The Four Noble Truths, and I don't have them memorized, I'm ashamed to say, but I think I remember them. So what are they, and what are the Four Noble Truths of love kind of in comparison, in relationship to it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's totally a great question. And the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism, the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism are the very core teachings of the entire Buddhist path. They are the very first teachings given by the Buddha upon his attainment of enlightenment. And they, whether it's Zen Buddhism or Tibetan Buddhism or Theravadan or Mahayana, all the forms of Buddhism have these four tenets at their core. And there's vastly interesting ways to interpret them. But the first noble truth of being human is, said the Buddha, is life is suffering, which sounds horrible. Suffering is not quite the right translation, I hear. It's more like unsatisfactory or dissatisfying. Life is dissatisfying in the sense that everything changes. There is nothing to hold on to. So we keep trying to build security and happiness, and sometimes we can, but it's all kind of sand castles that everything dissolves. Very painful. So the first noble truth is called the truth of suffering. The second noble truth is called the cause of suffering. Like, what makes this suffering? And the Buddha said, grasping is the cause of suffering, which basically means pretending like the first noble truth is not true. Trying anyway to create something solid and unchanging. The third noble truth is called the cessation of suffering, which means, you could stop. Especially now that you know the cause. You also know the cure. If the cause is grasping, stop grasping. Obviously it's not that easy. But the fourth noble truth is called the Eightfold Path, which sort of sets out, and this is vastly oversimplified, but sets out the 8 things that you can do that will lead to the cessation of suffering / non-grasping, and allow you to exit the cycle of suffering that we continually perpetuate. And the Eightfold Path, I don't know if I can remember them all, but it includes things like right view, right intention, right speech, right livelihood, right action, right effort, right mindfulness, right wisdom. So each of those rights is a vast universe. But those are the Four Noble Truths.
Excellent. So what does that have to do with the Four Noble Truths of love?
That's a really good question. So, as you remember, the Four Noble Truths start out with the truth, the cause, the cessation, and the way.
Okay.
So when it comes to relationships, at this one particular time in my own marriage when things were really not going too well, I was wondering how the Four Noble Truths could apply to my love life. And I was like, okay, the truth, the cause, the cessation, the path. The truth is, this is friggin' uncomfortable. Oh, all relationships are uncomfortable because they never stabilize. This thing is never going to stabilize. We've been together for 20 years now. Literally at this point, we just had our 20th wedding anniversary, and it's still going like this. So I have to assume, based on anecdotal evidence, that it's never going to stabilize. So that's the first noble truth. It's never going to stabilize. The second, the cause, is thinking it should be stable. Actually causes a lot of the discomfort. It's like, there must be something wrong. There's a problem. We have to fix it. Great. Fix your problems. Identify your problems. That's great. But nothing is going to put your relationship in some sort of a monotone. It's still going to go like this. but it's really important to solve your problems. I'm not suggesting otherwise, and to talk about what you need and what you're not getting. And of course, if there's anything like abuse or addiction involved, that is excluded from this view. That's not something I don't think that you should try to live with, and in order to then think, well, I'm in a relationship, so I have to make room for this. And then the third noble truth, the cessation, is to meet the discomfort together, to ride the instability together, which, doesn't mean everything's great, but it just means that instead of looking at each other like, here's what you did to make this happen, or here's what I did to make this happen, to sort of notice the ride that you're on. Like, oh, look, now we love each other. This is great. Now we don't. Now you love me. I don't really like you. But just to sort of feel to be on the ride together is the third noble truth of love. And I say that meeting the instability together is love, more than any feeling. That is love. And then the fourth noble truth.
Meeting the instability together?
Yeah.
Is that
not trying to make it be stable, but to ride the waves of closeness and disconnection and love and distance, and to ride all of that together, I would say, is very loving. And then the fourth noble truth is there's a way to do it. And this way involves certain, I'm happy to tell you what they are, but basically like 4 qualities that if you bring them into your relationship, it will help you on this crazy ride, I think.
What's one of the qualities?
Good manners.
Damn. See, I thought I could. My wife is going to hear this one.
Doesn't mean knowing which fork to use. Obviously, it means being aware of the other person's presence and being thoughtful about who they are and what's going on for them and what's happening between you, and just this very basic good manners. Very useful.
Yes, that's one thing. Even at my my old age, I could stand to remember at some times, and that's a tough one. Good manners is important. Are important. So, in the book, are there any stories? By the way, can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Okay, I'm not wearing the mic, but I'm not going to take that out. In the book, are there any key stories that kind of give like not a cliff notes, but a synopsis that kind of demonstrates either how, and I hate to call it a solution, but what kind of issues is there? Because I remember when I saw you give this presentation at ABC Corporate about the new book, I think you shared some stories that happened with you and your husband. Now, I haven't read the whole book yet. Is it all about you, or do you talk about friends also, or other people's experience, or it's all your path?
It's all about me, but it's also it's stories that from my life that I bring in with the hope of illustrating certain key Buddhist teachings so that anyone can bring these things into their life. But I only know my own relationship, and I barely know that. So I'm not a therapist or a journalist, so I really don't have any business telling other people's stories.
Right. So then I'll come back to my the whole wisdom fee concept is, how do you take this timeless wealth of wisdom, or in this case, the 4 noble truths of love? How do you bring that down to street level to someone? If you told them the word Buddhist, they would roll their eyes and they would say, no thanks. Or not even knowing what Buddhist is, that there's not that there's anything wrong with it, but how does this boil down to everyday wisdom for everyday people? Why is it a practical book?
I think the 4 noble truths of love are relevant to everyday people, because if you say, hey, everybody, guess what? Relationships are uncomfortable, they'll be like, yeah, they are. If you say, well, if you know, thinking they're supposed to be comfortable and perfect actually increases the discomfort, most people would go, got that. And if you could somehow work with the discomfort instead of trying to solve it, you might get closer to each other. I think that's pretty straightforward. And, you know, if you bring in qualities like good manners, which basically means being thoughtful, I just think that's very plain language and personally very accessible.
It is plain language. And you talk about manners, you know, this friend of mine got in this situation.
Someone you know.
Someone I know.
Uh-huh.
Someone I know where, you know, the term straight talk or street talk or familiar talk that I might say with my friends or buddies in playing hoops or something or playing poker, I kind of, from time to time, I try to be mindful of it, I just kind of let it out, and it's not good manners.
For your friend.
What's that?
For your friend.
And my friend or whatever. And this person that I know, my wife, she's she sometimes calls me on it,
Mm-hmm.
and really gets upset when I do it in front of my kids.
I bet.
Now, in my mind, I'm totally justified. You know,
Uh-huh.
in my mind, she was being a butthead or whatever, you know, or that's not very dignified way, but that's street level. She, you know, and, but I think good manners are important. It's respect. Even, I don't know, it seems to me that that friend could have used some good manners, and it, you know, it kind of then created something that needed to be fixed or something
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. I would say good manners here for your friend doesn't mean that your friend should not say what they feel. But the good manners, so the good manners is not about not expressing yourself. The good manners is about taking care to say what you mean in a way that the other person can hear.
Say that again. Say that again. That's
Good manners, I would say, is saying what you mean in a way that the other person can hear, which is no small trick.
no. And especially as, you know, there's so many different levels of relationship, emotional ups, downs, finances, uh, kids, no kids,
Mm-hmm.
stress, long day, short day. Uh,
It's so complex.
it's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
And now, so now I'm experiencing, my kids are away for camp for a few weeks,
Oh, nice.
really for the first time. So
Oh, wow.
my wife and I are talking to each other, and we're walking, and she's doing a lot of exercising, and I'm doing a whole lot of work, but that's fine.
It sounds
But
nice.
it, it's a chance to actually, let me show the cover, to have manners, have, you know, to try to implement some of these concepts. Uh, and and the manners thing, that alone, that worked for me. I hope anyone listening, whoever listens to this, uh, you know, appreciates that as well. So, any other takeaways or core key concepts about the book or story of the book, or and then maybe after that you can read, you know, a small excerpt of it.
Yeah. No, I'd say the core of it is the four truths, the four noble truths. So maybe I'll just read a paragraph. Is that
Great, perfect.
okay? Okay. It's from the introduction. To apply a Buddhist viewpoint in relationships is eye-opening. It points to a radically different worldview, one that runs counter to the spirit of much of the conventional advice we receive. It prioritizes unending curiosity over conclusiveness in such a way that conclusions are never arrived at, while openness of heart and of mind continue to expand. It posits having no agenda as a path to attainment. It suggests that the solution to problems in the outer world are solved by making changes within, and that problems within are solved by dissolving the boundary between self and other. To examine these views carefully is to turn ourselves upside down over and over, and rather than finding explanations by stabilizing in the upside down, we find what we seek in the turning itself.
Very nice. Very awesome. Okay. We'll put a link for the book and all that stuff under the video. So
Thank you.
that was wonderful, and I think that was great. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's nice to talk to you.
Pleasure chatting. Okay. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Cut. Okay. Cool.
Good.
That was great. That was great.
Great. That was good. Yeah. Thank you.
All
I
right.
appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it also. So we have two separate things we could kind of use, and just separate. It took a while, but we finally relaunched BetterListen.com. So it's
Good.
so that's brand new as of like the last 2-3 days.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Cool.
much more. We can highlight things and promote things, and Wisdom Feed is slowly coming into its own. And we have about 10 or 12 courses now on Wisdom Feed.
Oh, that's great.
And now I'm learning it's a different distribution channel kind of thing. But as our list grows and we're kind of learning, how to make it work. And one of the good things, it's a higher price point. And so more than open to figuring out how to get some of your stuff on there as we grow. And we're doing a lot with John Kabat-Zinn and a bunch of other people.
That's great.
We'd love to, we can continue that conversation. Or maybe we had the conversation years ago. Maybe we could start that one up.
No, that would be good. That would be good.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
So
nice to talk to you. Really good to see you.
It was a pleasure. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I do too.
Easy. Bye.
Okay. Bye.